And welcome back to Hannity. Now, you just heard from CEOs and average Americans about the real-life altering impact of Obamacare that it's having on business and families. So with that being said, well, why are liberals hell-bent on defending this disastrous law? All right, let me go to you, David. The president promised $2,500. Now we see that the average increase per family is $7,500. That's a $10,000 swing. Americans told they can keep their health care. Many Americans telling their stories they can't keep their health care. Wouldn't the smart, prudent thing be at this point to just stop, now that we know what the reality is, and let the nation debate this issue before we force it down their throat? What would be unreasonable about that?
Sean, it got through the House, it got through the Senate.
Yeah, no, that was 3 years ago, but now the reality's different.
But in answering your question, it's taken 50 years to get to healthcare, affordable health care today, and sanctioned by the Supreme Court. There's no reason to turn back when people with pre-existing conditions can get health care today, which, speaking to your panel earlier, they now can get insurance
how many Americans under Obamacare will be uninsured? Do you know?
Well, the goal of Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act is to insure 30 million people that are today uninsured.
The Congressional Budget Office says 30 million Americans will remain uninsured. Emily, I want to get your reaction.
So I think that your earlier panel definitely highlighted my favorite part of Obamacare, when we had business owners talking about all of his 100 employees and the fact that he doesn't want to cover their fornication drugs. I'm pretty happy that he's not making that decision.
Drugs.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy he's not making that decision for me, and I can now decide it for myself. I think that is very clearly now my favorite part of the law.
Tamara has a very puzzled look on her face. Are you okay?
I was confused too.
You know what? Well, first of all, I'm confused because I feel like a lot of the members of your panel were in favor of Obamacare, but they didn't realize it. For example, they were cut from pre-existing.
Were you listening to the same people I was listening to?
I was, but I
their premiums are doubling.
Let me finish.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay.
I understand people's concerns. I understand the business owners and the individuals with children with pre-existing conditions. But the debating, Sean, isn't actually the breaking news. This is not the way the democratic process works. Through debating, we elect people, and if we don't want these elected leaders in office, then we vote them out. But we don't have a low turnout like we've seen in 2010. And we have people show up in 2014.
I need to remind people that Republicans were fighting to address the issue of pre-existing conditions. They just weren't willing to do it via government overtake of the healthcare system. Everyone on that panel just told you why this is not an affordable care.
Basil, go ahead.
They were for the individual mandate. Newt Gingrich spoke on that. Now, what I also find to be really interesting is that the Republicans here, we talk about all these people who are not insured anymore. It's the Republican governors that are shrinking Medicaid eligibility so that you have a lot of people in the South, mind you, where a lot of Republican members are, that are not going to be covered by this law.
Not true.
It's Republican governors that are doing
Jennifer, one at a time.
Law.
Jennifer, who cut Obamacare, who cut Medicare by $700 billion?
Right, Barack Obama. And let's not forget that he slashed funding to Medicare as well in order to fund Medicaid. And let me point another thing out about Medicaid. This is not even helping the people that are currently on it. Medical studies show that people on Medicaid often have worse health outcomes than those who are uninsured. They're 13% more likely to die from surgery than the uninsured. They use the emergency room than the uninsured.
Everyone's hang on. All right. Tara, by the way, I got your name right tonight.
Yes, you did.
Good to see you. Here's a question I have. $10,000 swing is a lot of money. People aren't keeping their own plan. That's a problem. The Republicans' final offer that they sent over to the House was eliminate exemptions for big business. And they also said, and unions, and eliminate exemptions for themselves or subsidies from themselves. Tell me what part of that is unfair.
Well, first of all, I want to correct a couple of things here for the record.
How about answer my question, then you can correct it. What part of that, their final proposal, is unfair?
Well, I think the fact that they're trying to litigate something that has been upheld by the Supreme Court, that has been voted on by them 42 times, using tens of millions of dollars in taxpayer money to hold those votes.
The Constitution.
The Supreme Court is the arbiter of the Constitution, and they upheld the law.
We had an
the
election.
Supreme Court
Obama won the executive branch, and the Republicans that have the power of the purse, they won the House.
And the Democrats won the Senate. So, I mean, the bottom line is the law has been upheld by the Supreme Court. It's been voted for on 42 times, wasting taxpayers' money. So let me correct a couple of items.
All right. When we come back, hang on. When we come back, I'm going to play both Barack Obama, Kathleen Sebelius. We're going to continue our discussion, the promises that they made that actually now sound pretty funny right after the break. Any liberal want to defend this website? Sally Cohn, come on. Come on.
Look, first of all, it's a website. Second of all, Republicans blocked funding over and over again, funding requests to make the system work.
That's not true.
And the system has been overwhelmed
million.
because people are trying to sign up. And can I say another point here, which is the reason we're even having this argument is because the law is popular. When people know what's actually in the law, I'm sorry, no, let me finish my point. People don't want to be kicked off for pre-existing conditions. They support the law, including Republicans.
The website was so not ready for prime time. There's a House committee now wrote a letter to HHS and the contractors who did the website, and they said, how did you possibly drum this up? It's just not working. 1 in 10 people, that same poll you mentioned earlier, 1 in 10 people have successfully
law,
purchased.
even among Republicans, is like laughably ridiculous. I don't even know how you can possibly. Yes, I've seen the polling. But Sean, there's another point here, which is Republicans and conservatives are not arguing that this law helps nobody at all. The problem is we were all promised that it would help each and every one of us, which is clearly not the case. So they keep shifting the goalposts of what success means. They sold this as a panacea, and it is anything but.
So let it fail on its own.
This is worse than a regular government website. How long did they have to do this? They had 3 years. I mean, how could they not be ready? They knew this day was coming, and they weren't ready.
Before Obamacare, insurance companies cherry-picked who could get coverage, how much they paid, and when they could be terminated. Before Obamacare, you were at the mercy of your employer for health insurance.
You keep saying these things
and you were one illness away from bankruptcy. One illness away from bankruptcy. Yes, there are technical glitches.
One at a time.
A glitch does not mean that the 47 million Americans who are uninsured should not have access.
One thing you're right about right now, there aren't the votes to defeat Obamacare right now, but there will be elections in 2014 and 2016. And when more Americans see that they don't have choice, when more Americans see that they don't have choice, how much data they're giving away and how much the costs have increased. They were howling about, these costs went up before Obamacare. Don't you know anything about the market? The market bakes in the cost. That's why the costs have risen on people over the last 3 years. They're anticipating Obamacare.
Go ahead, Deneen.
I just heard the stories of the faces of individuals who are being harmed by Obamacare. These business owners, these families. This is just a snapshot. Clearly, it's a train wreck, and we know that people are ignoring the facts.
Can I ask you,
and it's harming
I agree
Americans.
with you, and I'm listening to Jammu and Sally and my friend Tamara, and the nice people, and Mark, and I'm listening to them. It seems like no matter what evidence you give, they are going to defend. Is it because this is the holy grail of liberalism that they wanted, and it doesn't matter if there's a $10,000 swing?
The alternative to having nothing.
Deneen, I'm asking Deneen.
There is no concern of the consequences of this Obamacare. We know that it's not working. It's a train wreck. You had these individuals on TV.
Evidence is going to convince
the numbers don't lie, and they're not going to back down.
We will continue more with our studio audience right after the break, and some final thoughts coming up straight ahead. As we continue with our studio audience, Jennifer Stefano, question. And I want you to debate Tara. I want you to explain, is there anything, in spite of all the evidence, that is not working that will convince Tara or anybody on the left that Obamacare is a failure? Anything?
No, because the fundamental principle of liberalism is this, that they love to pat themselves on the back for their good intentions while refusing to focus on their disastrous results. I think Medicaid, well before Obamacare, is a great example. Now Obamacare is another one. They refuse to accept responsibility. They will probably blame Obamacare on Bush at some point. There is a total fundamental lack of responsibility on the part of liberals to ever accept this.
I will respond as a small business owner, which I am. I don't get paid to criticize things on TV like many people here. I'm a small business owner. I can tell you 50% tax credit for people like me to purchase insurance for people. That is an incentive for me to attract good people. That's a way that I can grow my company. Number two, if you're an individual, you are eligible.
Incentive.
A 50% tax credit. And you guys should love tax credits. You love tax breaks. So why all of a sudden are you against tax breaks?
Do you really think that even though it's 3 times now what the president said it would be $900 billion, CBO numbers now have it at $2.8 trillion and going higher?
That's based. No, those numbers are based on if certain things don't happen. No, that's based on if
what they
certain
project the
scenarios don't
cost is
occur.
now. It's 3 times higher. Basil, wait a minute. The president said $900 billion. Does that impact you? All the facts that we throw at you, $10,000 more, you don't get to keep your doctor, you don't get to keep your plan, it doesn't seem to have any impact. Why?
Listen, I don't have a problem with businesses being profit maximizers. That's their right. But the fact of the matter is that businesses have been rolling back their healthcare coverage for the last 20 years or more. And for them to actually point fingers and say this is all because of Obamacare, that's all hyperbole. It is nowhere near reality.
You're in business.
Nowhere near
reality.
You're in the health business.
Respond. You ask, what are the things that could convince us? I think there's 2 things that are really keeping us supporting this law. One is that we know the people and we see the faces of the people that are no longer getting kicked off their coverage. If they have a pre-existing condition, they can change jobs. They're not worried about hitting lifetime caps. We know these people and we couldn't be more thrilled for them. And the second thing is, this issue was litigated. This is not like this issue was not before the American people in the 2012 elections.
But
it was out there. In fact, it was a main piece of the issue. And people support it.
But here's my question. The facts, though, have changed, David. And that's why, I think the Republicans are smart now that we see the costs are much higher, the benefits are much less. What's going on with you two? The costs are much higher, the benefits are much less. Well, I'm not going to go there.
Sean, we've seen 8 million or plus people trying to get into the enrollment on the exchanges. It's going to be a 6-month period to get those people into it, to see the impact that it has, and to get the stories that you should have on the show after having the crew that you did here before. And with regard to favorability, it's gone up to 38% in terms of it being a good law in the eyes of the public. 38% is not high.
And,
what's even lower, Sean, is that the American public favorability of Republicans is at 24%.
Obama's signature legislation. This is the key. If this goes down, his legacy goes down. The left is going to do whatever they can to uphold it, even if it collapses before our eyes.
Listen, thank you all for being with us. Great group. Give yourselves a hand. We'll see you back here Monday. Have a great weekend.